You don't want somebody who is always doom and gloom and fussy and
Welcome to another episode in The Circle. Today, we're chatting with Carrington as part of the Living the Single Life series. Get ready for this roller coaster ride as we cover not only being single, but relationships, expectations, and why he's still single. Stay tuned. This episode of In the Circle is brought to you by Bridge Tech Group, specializing in digital marketing services for small businesses. Get more details on their website at bridgetechgroup.com. Hello and welcome everyone. Today I have Carrington with us, and Carrington is going to be connecting with us in the circle regarding being a single male, in this current time. And so I'm very excited to have him. I know we have our series going, and we've spoken to 3 single women so far, and I've gotten so many requests to try and get single males on. So I am quite excited that Carrington is going to be sharing his story with us. Hello, Carrington. Welcome to In the Circle. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, Candice. I'm good, thanks. And I must say it's a pleasure being able to join you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know that you're very busy. But to help our audience get to know you, I'd love for you to kind of share with us, who you are, where are you in the world?
Okay.
If you're comfortable sharing your age or your age range, and just some background on who you are, just so that the audience can get an idea, to be able to connect with you.
Okay. I'm Carrington Mahoney, affectionately referred to as Robin. Born and bred in the beautiful mystic land of Jamaica. Attorney at law, presently working and residing in Bermuda for several years. And yes, I'm single. I'm 53, sorry. Lost track this year. And yeah.
I heard a few things. Yes, you're in the, did you say you're a lawyer?
Yes, I am.
Yes, so you're a lawyer and you're around 53 years old. It sounds like you are a professional. It sounds like you are a great catch. So what I tend to ask the ladies, I'm going to ask you. So why is it that you think that you're still single? Is that a choice?
Well, I've dated before, and usually the women that I'm interested in are usually the ones that are taken early.
Mm.
And therefore, I've been, taking the time while I'm single to know myself. And because unless you know yourself, you can't look to know somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Christian, I've learned to be content in whatever state I am in. So, whilst waiting until that time or that appointed person for me, I'm enjoying my present state.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And, I've heard also from some of the women that I spoke with that, the whole getting to know yourself was very important for them also. And they also stated that, being single is not, it's not the end of the world. It's not like this weight that you carry around and like, oh, I'm single, woe is me. They're finding some, they're living their lives. What's your comment to that? Do you find that's the same for you being a single male?
Oh, yes, I totally agree with that because as I had to share with somebody today, someone said, "Oh, you're single. What's it like being alone? Or isn't it lonely?" I said, "Well, I am not lonely. I may be single. I may live alone, but I have a very active, exciting life.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I have a more fulfilling life than many people who are married and live in a house filled with people who are deep down very lonely."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is a good point. And And also, I expect that some of the level of excitement that happens in your life is because you can just make a decision and and just go along with it. There's no channel of communication that you have to go through. You just live your life as you see fit. Is that a fair statement?
That is true. There is no commander in chief or other half or a quarter or a half and a dozen. You just live. If I feel like going on a trip or going taking a flight, well, pre-COVID, I
Mm-hmm.
could just book a flight if I get the days and I'm off.
Yes, yes. And I also heard you say that you're a Christian. So so I expect that you're a part of a church. And one of the other
Yes.
ladies that I spoke with was also part of a church, and she was been a part of that same church for a number of years. The church that you're a part of, have you been a part of that church for a number of years?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, usually within the church, you would expect that yes, you'll be able to find, your significant other. Is it the individuals that you think is the challenge, or is it the church or the church environment that you think is the challenge in being able to find the right partner, the right Christian partner?
Well, the reality is that it's about compatibility, and because you're in the church doesn't mean you're compatible with everybody in the church. And so that's a reality you have to find. I found also, even within the church, people who have gotten married and 3 months later they start to fight and quarrel and all of that. So because you are both Christians doesn't necessarily mean that you are automatically compatible and a match.
I didn't really think of it that way, and I don't think anyone else had explained it in the way that you just did, because there's an assumption that once you're in the church, that the partnership should easily flow, but you're saying that is not the case. Wow. So here's my other question, too, which I've also asked on the female side that was in the church. And I said to her, do you think then that if you were not in the church, if you would have a partner?
Not necessarily either.
Mm,
You see, compatibility first, as I said, you have to
mhm.
know yourself first. And then in knowing yourself, you will be able to know with whom you can be compatible. So you can't have someone who, because you're both, well, we're talking about outside of the church, even outside of the
Mhm.
church or within the church, it's about compatibility and knowing the person and knowing that you have shared goals, shared interests, or even where you have opposite interests, you complement each other. Is in other words, if it is a given that because you're in the church, you're supposed to be able to get married, the same could be said for your occupation. We're all lawyers, so all lawyers should be getting married to each other. And
Yeah.
it doesn't ring true because we're all Americans or Bermudians or Jamaicans. We don't automatically find that we must therefore be a match.
So why do you think then is it been difficult for you to find that compatible partner? And I should not have used the word difficult, but because you haven't found one as yet. What do you think the hindrance is with finding that compatible partner? And if you could explain as well, what are you looking for in a compatible partner?
Well, as I said, it's to talk about difficulty. Well, it's not so much, there was a difficulty at one point. But as I indicated earlier, that many of the women that I were interested in were already taken. And to find persons with similar characteristics, for example, I'm into fitness. I would like to find somebody who complement me with some form of fitness. I'm not talking a gym freak, but somebody who is, we can jog together, go on a walk together or something. Um, in terms of deportment, how the person carry themselves. You have some people who are very needy. And yes, you may have your moments for that, but I wonder if you understand what I'm getting at. I don't want to go through a list.
No, 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 you don't have to
And
go through
personality, personality as well.
Yes.
You want somebody who have, so therefore, if you have a certain sense of humor, you don't
Mhm.
want somebody who is always doom and gloom and fussy and nitpick and complain about everything or
Everything.
into gossiping and all of that. So there are certain things that are a turn off. So they may say, so and so is nice and handsome, and so and so is tall and attractive and beautiful, and they are both in the church. They must be a suitable match.
Yeah.
When lady so and so may be into her little gossiping, Mr. So and so may not be into the gossiping. Lady so and so may be into the bling bling with her nails and her petty and what have you, and can't cook. Whereas Mr. So and so can't cook either. He's looking for somebody to cook a nice meal for him. So you see, that's an example where I'm saying when it comes to they say that the devil is in the detail.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the compatibility comes in.
Yes. So in the detail then for you,
Right?
I heard probably two or three things that, is ideal or important for you. Do you want to name any others?
Well, the person first and foremost will have to have a relationship with Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's the foundation of everything. And the person is also how I should put it, they have to like people. I've seen situations where both in the church, they get married. One partner is a people person. The other person don't want neighbors to come to the house, don't want to say hi to anybody. In fact, the neighbors are afraid of the wife. She doesn't speak to them. There's only the husband talk to the neighbors and so on. So the person has to be a people person. I'm a people
Yes.
person. I enjoy people. I enjoy volunteering. I'm not saying the other person must be an exact photocopy of me, but there
Mm-hmm.
are certain major things that they have to complement me with.
Because you're going to be spending so much time together. So,
That's it.
yes. And I know you said you don't have a list, but I have some questions in reference to a possible list. So, if is there a particular age range that you're looking for? I mean, would you date someone, and I'm just going based on society. Would you date someone that's older than you or younger than you? Or by how much? How young would
I'm
you
not
go
so sure about the older. Not so sure about the older. But I would say probably from 30 up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
again, it comes down to the person. Do they try to take care of themselves and, you know, how they carry themselves, how they deliver themselves, the state of their relationship with God, how do they deal with people?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things. So I may meet somebody older than me by a year or two who may have all of those qualities.
Yes. So you're
I
not
may
putting
meet
a hard
somebody,
stamp on it.
no,
Mm-hmm.
no.
On that
But
range.
right, I tend to find like, you have some especially, and I'm saying this most respectfully, you have some women in church who don't take care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They don't take care of themselves, and they might cut off my head if they ever hear me say this. But that's it.
But women outside of the church too, you will find don't take care of themselves. But do you find that
Right. But
very?
you tend to find that women
Mm-hmm.
outside of the church for other ulterior motive tend to take care of themselves better than women within
Ah,
the church.
yes,
Or the women within the church will take care of themselves, exercise and so on, and eat properly and so on. For a while, once they get married to the man, it's almost as if, the fat start to cascade like Dunn's River Falls.
but in fairness, though, do you think that's specific to church only? I mean, I guess I should use the word specific because yes, it can happen in the general society. But do you find that is happening more so in the church, just because there is such a there's such a push on the fact that, once you get married, you should stay married. So maybe, I think the men also, sometimes the men start putting on the fat like Dunn's River
It's
Falls.
true. That is true. But but you see, it's you have to remember that what caused the initial attraction, and you put it this way: too often people see marriage as a destination rather than as a journey.
Oh,
So
now you're
tend to,
preaching. Now you're
well,
preaching,
sorry.
sir. Yes.
So people tend to put up doing all the preparation. The guys, even when you're younger, they go to the gym and what have you, and dress well and blah blah blah. And women as well. And then from they get married, they stop go to the hairdresser. The guys stop exercising. Everybody look as if both the couple look like they're delivering twins. He's carrying two, she's carrying two, or whatever you call it. And after a while, the attraction goes. And then the man start to look elsewhere at somebody else. And the woman start to look elsewhere as well, because, since we get married, you always, when we were getting married or when you were dating me, you used to give me flowers. From the ring go on the finger, no more flowers, unless it's funeral.
Unless it's funeral. But you make a solid point, and I know that it happens internal and external to the church, but I expect maybe it's a little more so in the church because, I think we take it for granted that, we'll be married forever if we just pray about it without putting some work into it. So, I'm not sure if I'm phrasing that correctly.
You're correct. In every relationship that you have, every relationship, friendship, family, marriage, what have you have to put in work. In other words, if you see your relationship as gardening, similar to gardening, you have to invest time, sunlight, water, and plant food and what have you for it to continue to grow. You can't water it and say, okay, I watered the plant last year, so I don't need to water it this year. It won't grow. It may limp along by chance, but if it dies, don't be surprised. And you have to constantly invest in the relationship and putting in work.
So for the past relationships, because I know we know and understand that you're not married, but you've had past relationships.
Oh, yes.
What was that?
I said yes.
Yeah. So did you come to some of these conclusions, some of these understandings, some of these, characteristics of what you're looking for in a relationship? Did that come from past relationships, or is that something that you had established a long time ago that you're looking for, and then you found that it's not being presented with the women that you've dated in the past?
Well, it has been said, experience teaches wisdom. And I have learned much wisdom from my experience.
So, okay, good. That's what I was want, because it's, the comments that you're making are so very clear and very specific. And so I thought that, yes, it's probably coming from experience. And as you say, from the experience, you're able to develop wisdom. With you being single in your early 50s, I expect that, and you're able to speak so well with regards to married couples, I expect that you do have a lot of married friends. What would you want your married friends to understand about being single? Because, I've heard different statements from different people, especially when I spoke to the women, they would like their married friends to know this. For you, what would it be?
Being single doesn't mean that you are alone and you are heartbroken and something is wrong with you, and you're not really living life to your full potential. That's rubbish. In fact, a single person tends to enjoy more life than those who are married. Experience, because Mark, you have married friends who are married who are enjoying their lives. But I have also friends who sometimes I've reached this point where when you go to a wedding, in the back of your mind, you're wondering, I wonder how long this one going to last.
But that is sad though, isn't it?
That is true. And I'm talking Christian friends.
Do you think there's a certain level of pressure in the church to get married, and so people go about it without really thinking it through?
Yes. Well, society has that pressure, and also more so in the church.
I think, too, because from a society perspective, it seems as if people are pushing off getting married really early. And when I say early, I mean in your 20s these days is considered early. Early 20s is definitely considered early with current society, in particular in the US. But I find in the church, I'm not sure if it's still being pushed to get married very early just to avoid the sin of of having sex before marriage. It's and so a lot of times I wonder if that whole marriage, that whole covenant that is taking place, if people are entering it with such lack of knowledge just because they feel that pressure. So I feel like there's a little more in the church than it is external. I mean, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that.
And there's also peer pressure as well, where
Mm,
it's like, it's the thing to do. Your friends are getting married, therefore I have to get married too. So I grab the first available person, and then afterwards I realize, oh my God, why did I choose so and so? And
mm.
then if you look carefully, you notice that they no longer sit together at the same church. In fact, they join different ministries so that they have an excuse not to sit beside each other.
Wow. And I'm wondering, is that recognized though? Because you would expect that within the church environment that maybe it would be recognized that maybe there are ministries, maybe there are support processes for marriages. I just feel like marriages seem to be under more of an attack, these days within the church. And I'm not sure if it's the approach. I'm not sure if it's expectation. I'm not sure if it's ignorance. It's just seemed to be a lot going on without necessarily seeing some support to keep the marriage together and keep families together.
Well, marriage is a ministry as well. I know that at my church they have a couples ministry in which they organize like couples retreat for people who are married or looking to get married, and it's an ongoing thing. They have meetings and events, seminars, cruise together, and so on. Just as though you have singles ministries,
Mm-hmm.
and single ministry is not necessarily for to provide a hookup opportunity, but it's also a way whereby as singles you can share life together pretty much, and experience
Yes.
how to pray for each other, how to encourage each other, and so forth. And remember, singles these days doesn't mean only people who have never been married, but can also include people who are divorced,
Mm-hmm.
or people who their spouse or loved ones have died.
Yes. We're taking a small break with Carrington to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Bridge Tech Group, your specialist in branding, in particular personal branding. Should you need further information, please visit their website at bridgetechgroup.com. Being in your 50s is completely different than being in your 20s, and you're both building life and things like that. In your 50s, you've already established yourself. You already kind of understand where you want to live. You already understand your finances. You already understand, there's so much more mature decisions that are being made in your 50s compared to your 20s. And I'm just wondering, as you try to bring someone else into your life in your early 50s, do you see that more of a challenge?
No, in fact, the more established you are, the more people are looking for you to well, there are persons who are attracted to the maturity
Mm-hmm.
and stability that a more mature prospect has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
But also I guess it depends, well, it depends on what the other person has to offer, because the question is, what does this person bring to the table?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not necessarily talking about material stuff or status or what have you, because if you're going to, marriage is a partnership, and each must bring something to the partnership. So
And
I'm
I'm
not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, yes. I'm just pondering what you were saying, because I am wondering if it's different, however, that your perspective is probably the way it is because you're male. Because I'm wondering for a female if her perspective would be similar. And I'm sorry I didn't ask my
No,
female in their 40s, because I feel that it may be easier for more mature men to find a spouse than it is for a mature female to find a spouse. And I guess the challenge that you may be finding is being very cautious about which person pursuing you would you open yourself up to encourage the pursuit.
right.
Mm, interesting.
I think it happens both ways, because in even when I meet or communicate with more mature women, especially if they're established, the
Mhm.
first thing they're looking at is to see, so what are you bringing to the table?
And it's
And
not
I can't
necessarily
blame them.
always financial, correct?
Right. It's not necessarily financial, but what are you bringing to the table? It can't be that you're coming for a free ride, or it's as if you won a lotto ticket. It's not like that. You have to come to, as I said, the relationship is an investment that you have to put in work. And what are you coming to contribute to that joint investment?
So Robin, I'm going to twist the question similar to the fact that you're in your early 50s. Is your intention still to have children?
It's not a big priority, because if I meet the love of my life and cannot have children, it's not a big thing. I'm not marrying the person for children's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many options now. There are many children who wants to be adopted.
Yes.
So there are many options. So children is not the priority.
Now, with you saying that, would you marry someone that already has children?
Again, it depends, because I am not going to take up any people's brats and then they tell you these are my adorable kids, and that's unnecessary headache. So sorry for being a bit so blunt, but that's the reality. But it depends. It depends
Yes.
on what age they are and the relationship and so on. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I should tell you, I've been on this site called Tinder, and I see people there with 7 children in the photograph with them, and say, "Oh, my lovely children looking for a daddy." That look like an investment you're looking into.
Oh my goodness, 7. Wow. Wow, that would be a bit much. But that's a good point, because I know when I speak, just from a female perspective with children, they're also being cautious. And I can see from the side of a male with that has no children at all, to be able to experience that for the first time through someone else's children it could be daunting, especially as you said, if they're if they're
Uh,
brats.
yes, not only that, they may have 3 children for 3 different men. That's 3 different headaches.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, because no matter what, the children, the spouses in your wife is in the picture, the children in the picture, and then yes, the dads are in the picture as well. Becomes a whole family get together.
Right. But as I said, I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends. There's no um what do you call it, one size fit all perspective. It
Yes.
all depends on the detail. As I said, the devil is in the detail.
Right. And do you ask, I mean, again, I'm thinking, being a more mature person, having, very clear understanding of what it is that you're looking for. do you ask, or how do you find these things out earlier on? Do you take the route of, eventually getting this information from this person before investing a lot of time? Or do you just ask up front on the first date, hey, do you have 7 children in the background that I need to know about? I mean, how do you go about finding out some of
Well,
these?
ask and it shall be given. Seek and it shall find. So if you don't ask and you get yourself in hot water, that's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is, you ask up front,
Get it out of the way so you know
right?
before investing too much time. That is some solid advice right there. So Carrington, for other men that are, in the similar state that you're in, and I'm not saying that in a negative form, whether they are now single because they may have been divorced, or unfortunately they may have lost their wife, or they've never been single and they're finding it to be.
Never been married.
Never been married. Yes, thank you. Never been married, and they're struggling with that state of singleness, because you sound like, you're flexing with it. You're open to what comes your way. You have a very clear understanding of where you want to go, but there's some people out there that are struggling with it and have no idea what to do. For those men that are struggling, what word of encouragement would you have for them?
I would say that, look, singleness is not necessarily a pause between relationship. Singleness is actually an opportunity for you to get to know yourself and to live your life to the max.
Hmm. So it's changing the perspective.
That is it.
It seems like there's a higher level of caution for men as they try to come out of their singleness, especially once they're hit anywhere past 35. I find that their mindset is completely different, and they're just being very cautious of how they move forward. And I think you had put it in a great way by, from experience, you gather wisdom, and it's up to you to make sure that you're using that wisdom. So what would you say to, let's say your ideal female is listening? What would be your words to that person, that potential, what would your words be to a potential partner, as you had put it?
Just be yourself, be comfortable in who you are, and project yourself as best you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't make sense you see somebody and you try to change or give a different image of who you really are. Eventually they're going to find out. And so just be who you are, be comfortable in your skin and be who you are.
Very important across many, many fields. If there's a question that you wish that I would have asked regarding your life in general.
Yes, back to the thing about men who are single.
Mm-hmm.
um, I've had friends who said that marriage is not what they make it out to be, in that people give the impression that when you get married, all your problems will disappear and you will live happily forever and ever. Amen. When that is not so. Being single means that you are in a state where you don't look to somebody else for your happiness. You find, if you're a Christian, you find your happiness in your relationship with God and in your own skin. So that if it is God's will that you should be partnered with someone else, you have something to contribute to that person. And likewise, they have something to contribute to you. But you are not dependent on that person for your happiness. And that's one thing people need to get clear in their mind. That's why when many people get married, and the reality of married life, and that the person you have gotten married to is just another human being like you with flaws. And people start to feel disillusioned that, but I thought this person was going to make me happy, because your expectations were wrong from the start. So, in a nutshell, enjoy the state that you are in, enjoy, find your happiness in who you are, as the Bible says. In whatever state you are in, learn to be content. It's not so much what or who you don't have, but what you do with what and who you have. And you have you. Make every day of your single life count. If the time should come that you transition into a marriage, then the same principles you are transferred there, where you make every day of that marriage investment count.
I can't even add to that. I think that was so well said. And not only for single men, but for single women and also for married couples. That was so well said. And I think this is a great way to close on our discussion, Carrington, regarding living the single life from a male's perspective. And I know that the information that you've presented, the advice that you have provided, will definitely help both single and married couples out there. Thanks so much, Carrington. It's been such a pleasure connecting with you.